Hey everybody. Before getting into the video, I realized that there are two items I want to bring up, which I did not touch upon the video that you're about to see. Number one, we've put together a questionnaire and we'd really like your help. Down in the description there will be a link. Please jump over to it and help us out. We want some feedback from the community to make sure that what we're doing is aligned with what the community wants. Number two, as many of you know, I've been working on this as a part-time project. I have a full-time job. I'm moving to a new job, so I'm moving over to Google. So I'll probably be very, very busy over the next few months and won't have as much time to contribute to UBS. However, we now have a pretty large community of asset contributors. They're working on 3D models, texture, sound, some code. If you're interested in participating and joining UBS team, please feel free to jump onto our Discord. We have an interview channel where we could chat back and forth and discuss how you may be able to help build this game. Enjoy. Hey, U-Boat Sim fans. It's been almost 2 or 3 months since I did my last video update. There are a ton of changes here, and I thought it's time to do a video on this. If you're part of the Discord, you're probably more than up to speed on everything. We do weekly updates, we do constant progress posting on there. But if you are not part of the Discord, please join, and if you don't want to join, this is what these videos are for. Just to give you a status update on where the project is, where it's headed, and what's happened in the last iteration worth of work. So I'll get right into it. If you haven't seen the latest version of the alpha, you're probably looking at the screen and you're seeing a completely different game than what you were presented with last time. And there is a reason for that. There has been a ton of work done on the engine itself, on the U-Boat Sim engine, and I'll get into it. The amount of work is very, very significant. It's still in flight, it's not yet on the stable branch, but we'll get there really soon. So I'll cover the big items one by one, and as I'm doing that, I'll walk through the game so you can see the new visuals. So first of all, the game has moved to Unity. That's the game engine we use. Unity's new HDRP, or High Definition Render Pipeline. HDRP is built for high-end computers, it's built for high-end consoles, and it has a ton of features in it that allow us to use all kinds of new tools and frameworks to create better visuals. If you're looking at this scene over here, you could just see the quality of the shadows, how much better they look, the quality of the textures, the adaptive exposure in the camera based on the lighting. It's pretty impressive, and in the long run it'll allow us to do really cool things with the visuals and bring that much more realism for the sim. However, that being said, it took a lot of work. A lot of the underlying frameworks and components that were being used for things such as water, things such as the climate system, the sky, none of those are compatible with the new HDRP pipeline. It's a completely new pipeline under the hood for how graphics are rendered. So quite a few things had to be rebuilt. The water, sky, the environment. We lost things such as the star map and the stars, so those have to be rebuilt as as kind of a backlog item. So there's a lot of work that has happened under the hood that doesn't necessarily create new features in the game. You could argue that it has taken some features away. However, in the long run, it's really worth it. I personally wanted to tackle this sooner rather than later, knowing that there is a significant cost to change, and I considered the state we were in at that point in time as technical debt. So over the last few months, that's what's been happening with the graphics side of the game. Additionally, under the hood, I've had to also update all of these models. So the U-Boat model itself has been updated, and part of that update meant switching from Blender 2.7 to 2.8, which is a ton of work. If you guys use Blender and are 3D artists, you know that the hierarchy system and everything has been changed, which means all of the old models I had not only had to be refactored and moved to a new management system, layer system in Blender 2.8, but also everything in Unity broke. All the references to all the different meshes, subgroup, etc. All that broke, and I had to rebuild that from the ground up. So again, lots of work that didn't necessarily turn into actual functionality for the game, But what you have now is a visual model with incredible fidelity. So if we can walk and get closer to the boat, you could actually see the weld lines. You could see the weld lines reflect the sun. Things such as the deck gun, are much higher quality. And we're pushing here millions and millions of vertices under the hood. If I was able to actually go through this, you'll see that you can see the structures that are supporting the deck. There's so much detail as we continue building on here. I think everybody will truly eventually appreciate all of the effort that's going into all the small details, especially when we have deformable meshes. So as the boat takes depth charges and it starts to crinkle up, it'll be really impressive and interesting to see how the boat itself starts reacting to that. So through time, visually you could see all the hardships you've been through in war and how the boat has been impacted. Side effects, you can see the conning tower need textures. We have new AA gun that needs textures. So quite a bit of work in flight, but again, in the long run, I know it will be worth it. The interior of the sub, we've moved all the textures to HDRP. Some of the effects have also been migrated to HDRP, so visually they're much nicer. Quite a few things that still need adjustment. The exposure time, the light intensity, luminance, things like that. Under the hood, we've been doing work on the electrical simulation, making it more accurate. But again, it's all things that aren't ready to go yet, so it's really hard to try and show off. That's why I'm kind of just talking about it. So eventually when it comes, I think everybody will appreciate all the work. And I'm gonna walk to the back of the boat here just so you can see what I mean by detail. When you're in the game, you really get a scale for the grandeur of this thing. You can zoom in, you can see the different pylons holding up the different structures. And it just feels, I think overall, I'm really happy with the direction this is going. See, all the little details, like even the propeller shaft spinning with the propeller. Or some diesel smoke because the diesels are gold. I mentioned, the weld lines you can see on the hull. You can walk over here, see the different components. So work in progress, and you guys can get a sense of just where this is headed. The other thing under the hood that we've worked on is a dynamic level of detail system. So when I import these models from Blender, they're extremely large. The U-boat itself is almost 2 gigs worth of vertex data in Blender. So what I've been working on is the adaptive LOD. They'll take these different meshes, and during build time when I'm working on the game, it actually breaks them down into multiple meshes with multiple LODs. And the goal is, depending on your hardware, if I were to bring up the console here, you can see there's LOD changes that occur. Depending on your hardware and depending on the quality that you set of the graphics, the engine will limit which LOD you can see depending on how far or how close you are to a particular object. This helps keep the frame rate up, and it ensures that people with really solid graphics cards, let's say like the new RTX 3080, the old 2080, 2090s, can run these insane meshes. Right here I'm running a 2080, and you can see I've got VSync on. If I take VSync off, I'm hitting over 100 FPS with this model. And like I mentioned, we're pushing millions of polygons here. This is a very detailed mesh, not necessarily for every PC. So if you have lower specs with the new LOD system, it'll help bring up the performance. That way you're still able to play the game without having the latest and greatest gaming hardware. And the biggest change that took, I shouldn't say the biggest change, all these changes I mentioned have been, a ton of work. But one of the bigger changes are a full world scale topological bathymetry and height map data set. So 15 arc seconds worth of granularity here. Basically load the height map for the entire world, and it's dynamically generated when you enter the game. So as you're going through the game, it's a full spherical world with gravity pointing to the Earth's core, and you could literally navigate the entire world on a spherical a globe. It's an elliptical globe. I won't get into the math. I've talked a lot about it in Discord. There's way too much to discuss. But really, the point is that this is a simulator with a spherical world that you're playing on. It's not a flat plane like most other games. Reason for that is it's very difficult to do this. Again, I mentioned it took a lot of work. All of the math involved is no longer kind of straight math. It's all elliptical math, using ellipsoid mathematics. So when you shoot a torpedo, it doesn't just go straight forward in an infinite line. It actually has to properly follow the water based on physics, and that water, given enough distance, curves. Again, it's a sphere that we're working on. So that's now baked into the game. The height map data is about 8 gigabytes, so the game has gotten a little bit larger as a result. But again, I feel that for a simulator, it's a pure necessity. I mean, how else are you going to do stellar navigation and properly and accurately be able to mimic, the travel times from one point to another on the world without having real data to work with? So eventually, the data will continue being used to enhance things such as the height map generation, the texturing on the terrain. So as you either go underwater or go on top of hills, depending on elevation, you'll have different textures to look at. And eventually we could start populating the coastal lines with trees, shrubs, and other entities such as buildings, cars, etc. For now, it's a pretty straightforward, simple terrain. So lots of work to do, but we're getting there. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be announcing some changes. We've had a lot of talent join the team, our asset contributors. There's an amazing amount of dedication and time being put into the project beyond myself now. So I want to make sure that we set up the team for success, and those who want to contribute and are passionate about the subject matter have a really good place where they can work collaboratively with others and contribute in a very fair manner for everybody. So we're going to be announcing some changes that I think will make sense for everybody. They'll ensure the long-term development of the game without single points of failures or bottlenecks. So we've been thinking about that, and we want to make sure that this will truly be the game you think of when you think about a U-boat simulator. It has everything you would desire with a level of detail and realism that hasn't been seen in the genre before. So I mentioned everything that has happened since the last video. I'll go over it again. High definition rendering pipeline upgrade, new water system upgrade, weather and sky models have all been refactored to match the HDRP pipeline. The exterior U-boat model has been overhauled. A lot of the models are now running on Blender 2.8, so going forward we should be able to push out changes a little bit quicker than before. Dynamic LOD system that'll allow us to scale and ensure that we can run the game on different hardware while still bringing amazing level of detail for those that have the hardware to handle it. And finally, the full world topological model with bathymetry data and height map data down to 15 arc seconds. So thank you for tuning in. Again, if you are interested in these updates, want to chat with the devs, with the asset contributors, and want to be part of it, please join our Discord. I'll put the description and the link down in the description box. And I look forward to the next video. So thank you for tuning in.